Why do some men stay calm, respected, and unshaken, while others get dragged through endless games, losing themselves piece by piece? The answer isn't chance, it's knowledge. And the knowledge I'm about to give you will change everything. Once you know it, she can't dangle love like a prize. She can't manipulate your emotions. She can't keep you trapped, because you'll see through it all. Stay with me, because I'm going to reveal 5 truths that will end the games forever and put you back in control of your life. I don't want you to just watch this video passively. I want you to claim it as a turning point. So take a second right now, hit subscribe, press like, and in the comments write these words: I refuse to be blind anymore. That's your declaration. That's your start. And once you've done it, stay with me. Because the very first truth will open your eyes to why love, as you thought it was, may never have been unconditional. Number 1. The difference between conditional and genuine love. Most men walk into relationships with blind faith. They carry this deep belief that when a woman says, "I love you," it means she loves all of you. Your flaws, your struggles, your weaknesses, and your failures. They imagine her love as an eternal flame, steady and unconditional. But here's the harsh truth. Most of what you experience in modern relationships is not unconditional. It is conditional. It is love that lives under terms and boundaries, whether spoken or unspoken. Think about it. How does her tone change when the money slows down? How does her attitude shift when the attention you give her fades, or when the excitement of the early days wears off? Suddenly, the warmth feels colder. Suddenly, the affection feels heavier, tied to invisible strings you never noticed before. That is conditional love in action. This doesn't mean women are heartless. It means they are wired to respond to security, stability, and provision. Their affection often mirrors the circumstances around them. When life feels safe, when you are consistent, when you are giving, her love shines brighter. But when those factors vanish, her behavior shifts. The danger for men lies in not recognizing this pattern early. Here's the mistake so many men make. They give endlessly. They pour energy, time, money, and loyalty into the relationship, expecting the same devotion in return. They believe sacrifice guarantees reciprocity. But reality doesn't work like that. Men keep giving until they are drained, until they have nothing left, and then they look around confused, asking, "Why wasn't my loyalty enough?" The problem isn't that conditions exist. The problem is that men refuse to acknowledge them. Men cling to the fantasy that love will always mirror their effort. And that fantasy breaks them. Because when she pulls away, when her affection starts to feel transactional, they interpret it as betrayal instead of reality. Now here's where the shift happens. Once you recognize the truth, it doesn't make you bitter. It makes you wise. Instead of giving blindly, you start observing. You stop being seduced by sweet words and begin to measure actions. You stop judging her love by how she treats you when you are at your best, and start evaluating how she behaves when you are at your lowest. This is where clarity begins. You realize that much of what you thought was unconditional devotion was often admiration for your consistency, gratitude for your efforts, or security in what you provide, not genuine attachment to you as a man. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. So how does this knowledge empower you? It forces you to stop over-investing. It reminds you that love is not a blank check you write until your account is empty. It teaches you to set boundaries, to observe before you give, to require reciprocity instead of assuming it. Conditional love doesn't mean you are doomed. It means you must stop living blind. If she only loves you at your peak but disappears when you fall, you now have your answer. If her affection fluctuates with your wallet, your status, or your energy, then you understand exactly what her love is built on. And when you understand, you stop being a servant to it. The man who learns this lesson stops pouring himself out without measure. He protects his resources, his time, his energy, his devotion. He chooses carefully who earns it. He doesn't shut his heart, but he guards it. And that single shift changes the entire balance. Because once you know this truth, you are no longer desperate for her approval. You are no longer blind to the conditions that drive her love. You become deliberate, cautious, and powerful. And when a man reaches that point, the game changes forever. Number 2, the power of your attention. Most men underestimate it. They treat their attention like it's worthless, giving it away to anyone who asks, like free samples in a grocery store. But attention is not free. It's one of the most valuable currencies you possess. Every glance, every text, every compliment, every late-night conversation is energy. And energy is influence. Influence is power. Here's the trap. When you like a woman, you drown her in attention. You text constantly. You comment on her pictures. You praise every detail she shows you. At first, it feels harmless, even sweet. You think you're showing interest. But what you don't realize is that abundance kills value. Anything that flows too freely is taken for granted. Women understand this instinctively. They know how attention fuels their confidence. They know the high of being desired, admired, validated day after day. For many, it's not even about love. It's about the thrill of being wanted. The more you give, the more they consume. But it doesn't always bring them closer to you. In fact, the opposite happens. You've probably seen it. The man who's always available, always calling, always chasing, becomes invisible. His presence is so constant that it loses its impact. She doesn't wonder about him. She doesn't miss him. Why? Because he's already there, every second, waiting on demand. The chase is over before it begins, and she feels no need to invest. But watch what happens when a man pulls back. Suddenly, silence becomes louder than words. Suddenly, absence speaks volumes. When the flood of validation dries up, curiosity creeps in. She begins to notice the gap. She starts to wonder, where is he? Why isn't he texting? Who has his attention now? And that shift creates desire, even fear. This is the truth. The more selective you are with your attention, the more powerful it becomes. When you stop giving it away recklessly, it transforms into something rare. And rarity creates value. Your glance becomes meaningful. Your compliments carry weight. Your time feels like a gift, not a guarantee. Here's where most men get it wrong. They think pulling back means playing cruel games. It's not about cruelty. It's about respect. Respect for your own energy. When you realize your attention is sacred, you stop wasting it on women who don't reciprocate. You stop chasing validation from someone who only enjoys the spotlight but refuses to give anything back. This is when the balance flips. Instead of being the man who begs for recognition, you become the man she works to impress. Instead of competing for her validation, you recognize that your validation is the prize. And the more you invest in yourself, your goals, your growth, your body, your money, the rarer and more valuable your attention becomes. Think about it. A man who pours all his energy into chasing ends up drained and ignored. But a man who channels that energy into his own life becomes magnetic. He doesn't have to run after women. Women chase him because his attention feels earned, not automatic. So the lesson is clear. Protect your attention like treasure. Give it wisely, not freely. Watch how people respond when they realize it's no longer guaranteed. The same women who once took you for granted will begin to shift. They'll lean in. They'll fight for what you no longer hand out easily. And here's the final point. When you understand the power of your attention, you stop living as a chaser. You transform into a chooser. And in that moment, the game with women changes completely. Number 3. Emotional control. For generations, men have been trained to prove love through reaction. She ignores you? Chase her harder. She withdraws? Pour in more effort? She lashes out? Show your passion by raising your voice. And if she threatens to leave, you beg, thinking desperation equals devotion. This cycle has trapped countless men in emotional slavery, making them prisoners of their own feelings. Here's what you need to see clearly. The strongest weapon many women use in relationships is not beauty, not charm. It's their ability to move your emotions at will. They test your anger. They test your jealousy. They test your insecurity. And every time you explode, panic, or plead, you hand them proof that they control you. If she knows a silent treatment drives you crazy, she can use it. If she knows your jealousy makes you reckless, she can trigger it. If she knows your fear of abandonment makes you beg, she can manipulate it. Your reactions become her leverage, and the more predictable you are, the easier you are to manipulate. But something changes the moment you learn control. When her silence no longer shakes you, when her mood swings no longer send you into panic, when her threats no longer break your composure, suddenly the games stop working. Your calmness unsettles her. Your steadiness confuses her. Your refusal to crumble under pressure forces her to meet you on level ground. Understand this. A man who cannot control his emotions is a puppet. A man who can control them becomes untouchable. Emotional control doesn't mean shutting off your feelings. It means refusing to let them dictate your actions. It means knowing that anger, when uncontrolled, is weakness. That jealousy, when loud, is insecurity. That begging, dressed up as loyalty, is really desperation. Picture this. She storms out, expecting you to follow. You stay calm. She gives you the silent treatment, expecting an apology frenzy. You carry on, steady and composed. She hints at leaving, expecting panic. You respond with quiet strength, ready to walk away if respect is gone. That is emotional control in action. And do you know what happens then? Respect. Because strength in a man is not measured by how loud he yells or how frantically he reacts. It's measured by how grounded he remains when tested. Women are drawn to mystery, to steadiness, to a man who cannot be pushed and pulled like a toy. Emotional control turns you into that man. Here's the deeper shift. Emotional control also changes how you see yourself. You stop feeling ashamed for having emotions, but you no longer let them rule you. You understand that silence can carry more weight than 1,000 words. You learn that walking away is sometimes the loudest statement you can make, and in that stillness, you find power. The truth is, when you gain control, you break one of the oldest patterns of manipulation. Tears no longer sway you. Anger no longer intimidates you. Withdrawal no longer enslaves you. She realizes she must engage you with respect, not games. She must show genuine character, not temporary theatrics. And here's the most important point. When you control yourself, you control the relationship. Not by domination, not by manipulation, but by refusing to be moved like a pawn on her board. You set the rhythm. You set the tone. She either rises to your level or she walks away. Either way, you keep your dignity intact. This is why emotional control is the third truth every man must master. Without it, you will always be reactive, always dancing to her moods. With it, you set the rhythm, and the game changes forever. Number 4, the reality of options. From a young age, men are taught a dangerous lie, that women are the prize and a man must chase, prove, and perform just to keep her attention. This belief creates desperation. It convinces men that if they lose one woman, they'll never find another. And so they cling, they tolerate disrespect, They lower their standards. They beg for crumbs, all because they believe she is the only option they'll ever have. But here's the truth. Men have options too. The difference is that a woman's options are given, while a man's options are built. A young woman can walk into a room and attract attention without saying a word. But for a man, options don't fall into his lap. They are forged in the gym when he chooses discipline over laziness. They are built in his career when he invests years of effort into becoming financially independent. They are sharpened in his character when he learns confidence, social skills, and purpose. A man who refuses to build remains trapped in scarcity. His options stay limited, and so does his power. But a man who builds is never without choices. He is not desperate because he knows his value grows every time he invests in himself. And when he sees this, the entire dynamic of relationships changes. Think about it. If you believe she's the only one who will ever want you, you will tolerate her games, her disrespect, her lack of effort. You'll accept half love because you fear having no love at all. But if you know there are countless women in the world who would value the man you've become, you will never beg to stay in a situation that drains you. Options create freedom, and freedom is power. This is why women are often drawn to men who don't seem afraid to lose them. They sense abundance. They sense choice. And ironically, it's that very energy, being unafraid to walk away, that makes them want you more. Because nothing is more attractive than a man who doesn't cling out of fear. Here's the turning point. Once you understand your options, you stop chasing like a beggar. You stop playing small to keep her attention. You stop negotiating your dignity in exchange for her temporary affection. You stand tall, knowing that if one woman leaves, another will arrive. And often, she will be better. And this doesn't just shift how she sees you, it shifts how you see yourself. Suddenly, rejection doesn't scare you. Silence doesn't crush you. Endings don't destroy you. Because you know abundance exists, and you are capable of attracting it. That mindset alone removes desperation from your energy. And women feel it instantly. A man with options doesn't just stay in relationships, he chooses them. He doesn't beg for respect, he requires it. He doesn't fear loss, he accepts it. And because he can walk away at any time, manipulation no longer works. Threats don't work. Guilt doesn't work. Scarcity has no hold on him. So here's the lesson. Build yourself until you have choices. Invest in your body, your career, your skills, your mind. Create options, and you'll never again be trapped by fear of losing one woman, because once you know the reality of options, you stop living in desperation, you start living in freedom, and that freedom makes you untouchable. Number 5. Self-respect. Too many men enter relationships ready to give everything, time, effort, money, devotion, but they leave behind the one thing that matters most, respect for themselves. They put romance above dignity. They put desire above standards. They put beauty above boundaries. And when they do this, they hand over their crown without even realizing it. A man without self-respect is like a kingdom without walls, easy to invade, easy to conquer, easy to control. Women sense it instantly. They know when a man is willing to bend his principles just to keep them close. They know when he will overlook lies, excuses, or broken promises because he fears losing them more than losing his integrity. And once they sense this weakness, they will test it. Again and again. Here's the brutal truth. If you cannot defend your respect, you cannot defend your love either. You can buy gifts, write poems, sacrifice your time, and still end up discarded. Because none of it matters if you have shown her you are willing to betray yourself just to keep her. Love without self-respect is not love. It's submission. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine a man who draws clear lines. Not walls to shut people out, but boundaries that define how far others can go. He doesn't accept shouting, name-calling, manipulation, or betrayal disguised as affection. He doesn't accept being treated as an option while giving his all. He doesn't accept half-hearted effort from someone who expects full devotion. That man is not arrogant. He is not cruel. He simply respects himself. And here's the paradox. The moment you place self-respect above desire, you become more attractive, not less. Your words carry weight because you stand firm. Your presence commands attention because you embody strength. You don't have to demand respect. You radiate it. And people, women included, respond to that energy. Self-respect also transforms the entire relationship dynamic. When you raise your standards, she either rises to meet them or she leaves. Either way, you win. If she rises, you gain a partner who values and respects you. If she leaves, you keep your dignity intact. There is no loss in that equation. But without self-respect, the cycle is brutal. You'll tolerate disrespect. You'll rationalize lies. You'll accept mistreatment as normal. And over time, you won't just lose her, you'll lose yourself. That is the slow death of a man's spirit. Here's the awakening. Once you grasp the value of self-respect, everything else falls into place. Your attention becomes more valuable because you no longer waste it. Your emotions fall under control because you refuse to be dragged into chaos. Your options expand because you no longer settle for less. And your love becomes stronger because it comes from choice, not desperation. This is the final truth that seals all the others together. Love without respect is an illusion. A relationship without respect is a prison. And a man without self-respect is already defeated before the first battle begins. So never negotiate your dignity in exchange for temporary affection. Never sacrifice your peace just to say you have someone by your side. Never allow beauty alone to blind you into lowering your standards. Respect yourself first, and everything else in your life will shift. Because once you choose self-respect, you become untouchable. And when a man is untouchable, the games finally end. You've now seen the 5 truths every man must know. Love is not always unconditional. It often comes with terms. Your attention is not free. It is a currency of power. Your emotions are not weapons for her to use. They are tools for you to master. Your options are not scarce. They expand as you build yourself. And above all, your self-respect is not negotiable. It is the foundation of everything. When a man finally opens his eyes to these truths, something profound happens. He stops living blind. He stops giving blindly. He stops handing away his dignity in the name of love. He doesn't become bitter. He becomes awake. He becomes sharp. He becomes deliberate. Picture the difference. One man begs for scraps of affection, always reacting, always chasing, always lowering his standards just to keep someone beside him. The other man stands firm. He observes. He chooses. He protects his energy, guards his attention, controls his emotions, embraces his options, and above all, respects himself. Which man do you think commands respect? Which man do you think women cannot play games with anymore? This is the shift that terrifies manipulation. Because once you see through the illusions, once you stop being moved by the same tricks, once you understand your value, the game is over. The old tactics no longer work. The silent treatments, the tests, the threats, the withdrawal of affection, they fall flat. Because you know the difference now. You are no longer the pawn. You are the player. And here's the truth you must carry with you. Once men know this, women can't win anymore. Not because women lose, but because the games lose. What remains is respect, clarity, and genuine connection. That is the ground where real love can exist. So if you've made it this far, don't keep this awakening to yourself. Subscribe now so you never miss the strategies that will keep you in control of your relationships. Like and share this video with other men who need to wake up. And leave a comment below. Tell me which of these truths hit you the hardest and how you plan to apply it. Because the moment you live these truths, you stop being controlled. You start being in control. And that is when everything changes.